Yes, and it's recording. I'll just leave it running.
Yeah.
Let me grab my water.
Save my seat. I'm just going to get my phone. Oh, you have yours. So I'm just going to get my phone. What's over there? Should we be over there?
Groupings of people. Very exciting.
Yeah.
No, sit there, Janae.
No, sit there.
No, I want to sit there. Oh, you. Here. Sit here. Okay, save a seat for Taylor.
Hey, Derek. Derek.
So what's happening?
Is this your media camera?
It's Ralph.
Do you know, can I see what the, I just don't want to get in the, so if I stand kind of here, that's
Do
fine.
you want us over there or here?
You're right where you are.
You're not seen on this right now.
Try not to completely put over it again.
Well, good morning to everybody.
Morning.
Hey, good morning, absolutely. Welcome to Minister Surma. My name is Stephen Holliday. I'm the counselor here in Ward 2, Etobicoke Centre. This is a beautiful day to talk about a very exciting announcement and recognition. But before we begin today, I would like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. It is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. I'll also note it's very fitting to recognize that we are in the Humber River Valley. That river for thousands of years has been the lifeblood of this territory. It has been the host of and the enabler of people for thousands of years in settlements, creating fertile lands in this valley, and really is part of the story and the history behind the club right here before us. Thank you to everyone for joining us to recognize this valuable amenity in a community gathering space that was revitalized with the hard work of the City of Toronto Parks Capital project team and a very substantial contribution from the province's Ontario Trillium Foundation. To tell us a little bit more about the contribution and its significance, I'd like to welcome the Honourable Kinga Surma, the Ontario Minister of Infrastructure, and of course our own local MPP for Etobicoke Centre, to say a few words. Minister Surma.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here with all of you, and of course my colleague, the councillor, who I know was who really worked with city staff and the organization to make this happen. It's always a pleasure when you get to see provincial dollars invested right back in your community, and so we're very happy to see $500,000 be contributed to the Lawn Bowling Club. One of the best things about living in Etobicoke Centre is that we're very lucky. We have a lot of green space and a lot of park space that I know all of us utilize. In fact, when my staff told me I was going to be here today, yesterday I was walking my dog along the trail here, so I enjoy this space very much, and Ayana really loves walking along the Humber River. I think it's so incredibly important, especially when you represent a riding with a lot of young families, newcomers, and seniors, to have the spaces available to be active socially and physically, because I think that preserves a good quality of life. So very happy to see this investment land here in Etobicoke Centre. I would like to again thank my colleague, the councillor, for all of his work, and we will continue working together to to ensure Etobicoke Centre is and will continue to be the best riding in the province in which to live. So have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, Minister, and absolutely, I look very much forward to continuing to work with you because this is the best riding in the province, and I know that you work tirelessly to keep it happen. Absolutely. So this park and the Lawn Bowling Club have a long history here in Etobicoke. Following Hurricane Hazel, it seems to have set the mark for many, many things in the city in 1955. The city bought this land from Mr. and Mrs. Fred T. James, and they developed the botanical garden that you see around you. To honor the family, of course, it was named James Gardens. We know that in 1969, the James Gardens Lawn Bowling Club was established, but really this was only a transition point. The story goes back, of course, to the Old Mill Lawn Bowling Club, which can trace its origins all the way back to 1917. So help me with that math, but it's 107 years. So I don't think there's anyone here that was around for that. So, you know, truly impressive amount of history. And frankly, the club here was evolving when you saw the houses starting to come up in the late 50s and 1960s. So having a facility like this really is integrated with our community and with the growth of the community. And we know the value of parks and why this is such an important space. So while lawn bowling has been here for 50 years, we've got 100 years of lawn bowling. And of course, you know that there's a second club right here in Etobicoke Center, which really makes this, I think, the epicenter of lawn bowling in the city, which is exciting. I want to make sure I acknowledge the teamwork that has brought this project to fruition. So the opportunity came to get funding for this project during the pandemic in 2020. And in fact, there was only about 10 days left to get the grant application into the Ontario Trillium Foundation. And, you know, I know I've been in contact significantly with Mr. Ellis to try to make this happen. But between my office and the Parks, Forestry, and Recreation Capital team, not only did we get it in on time, but we were successful in securing the largest Ontario Trillium Foundation single project funding grant in Toronto ever, and most definitely the largest one for a lawn bowling club. You know, as our population grows, it makes sense to keep investing in recreational activities that provide so many benefits. A few years ago, the city had invested in artificial turf here. And replacing this turf means that the bowling season can be a bit longer. And, you know, that's helpful. More people can get out to play longer. I also understand, you know, a new type of turf is a little easier for people with mobility issues, which means more people can play. I also hear it's a little closer to the turf that's used around the world in places like Australia and New Zealand. So it makes this club really, really popular, including from visitors and competitive players. So, you know, as we heard from Minister Surma, the Ontario Trillium Foundation has made this generous $433,000 capital grant to refurbish the facility. And you're able to really add new glory to this place and extend its life for many, many more years. You know, I won't be able to be here in 107 years, but others will. And, you know, let's hope that the club continues to thrive and bring joy to people. This also couldn't be done without, of course, the support and the organization of the James Gardens Lawn Bowling Club. I also wanted to talk a little bit about, I was thinking about today and what I would say, you know, this theme of time kept coming up. And so, you know, the obvious time, 107 years is a long time. And it wasn't always artificial turf. It was grass turf, and you know, where does that come from? Well, you've got these phenolic plastic bowls, but the rest of this comes from Mother Nature, right? It's some dirt, some sand, some grass, but it takes a lot of time to actually level the surface and care for it. And in fact, it takes a lot of craft and skill and knowledge to make the lawns the way that they are, even if they're artificial. You know, it takes a lot of care on this. So again, this element of time. And one of the things I learned about real grass is it even changes with the position of the sun. The blades bend, and I think some of the experienced bowlers would know this, right? It changes throughout the day and through the seasons. But maybe the most important dimension of time in all of this, though, is the time that we spend together, whether it's family, friends, associates, competitors in this club. And while lawn bowling does a lot for you physically, right? Builds strength, coordination, hand-eye coordination, gets you out walking, talking, some mental acuity. It's the social aspect that's incredibly important, and we don't always remind ourselves of that. So that's one of the reasons why the Trillium grant converts the physical, but it's the people of the club that really make it a club and make it social. And remind yourself, the importance of coming out here and spending time with each other. And I think we were taught a little bit of that in the pandemic. But my suspicion is that is why this club continues to thrive. It's because of the membership and your commitment to spending time with each other. So on that note, there's the leader of the organization. So here with us today is the president of the James Gardens Lawn Bowling Club, Mr. Ralph Ellis. I'd like to welcome Ralph up to the podium to say a few words.
There are a lot of thank yous to go around. The provincial government opened the door. Basically created a grant large enough to handle this type of project, which never would have been possible before. And that was very, very helpful, again, as everybody was coming out of COVID. So that really was the central starting point to get us going. And then I will mention actually one specific story that I've mentioned to you before, is that originally we were going to apply for this grant on our own, but we were unable to because our lease with the city was not long enough to meet the terms for the Trillium grant application. So, and that's actually where Councillor Holiday came in, and he was actually very central in convincing the city to apply on our behalf. And without that, this would not have happened. And so, and now I could tell you a long story that it was like years of dedication and work that led to this, and of course that'd be entirely wrong because it all came together in 10 days. It was really probably the fastest design of a lawn bowling green in progress. And I kept on telling you COVID for the fellow who's providing the numbers for Australia, that whatever number you think it is, it's bigger because of, again, all the inflation that we were dealing with at the time. But what this surface does for us is then it gives us a surface that gets fast enough so that our members can play into their 90s. And usually that's not possible at a grass green. We have had several members who have played well in the 90s. We have members who play into their 80s. But on the other end of that, we also have competitive players. Competitive players actually on the national team will come to James Gardens to practice before they go abroad because our green is the only thing that's quite fast enough to really match up with what they see abroad. And competitive players like training on this type of surface. Over the years, to give the numbers for this, we've had 4 bowlers who have won international medals from our club. We have 13 Canadian champions at the club, and many of whom have won multiple Canadian championships, and we've had 26 provincial champions. So a good surface is a good training ground, and even though we're not a huge club, it's incredibly successful. So I would like to thank the province. I'd like to thank Igor Sirma, our minister. I would like to thank Stephen Holiday and the city as a whole for their tremendous support for our club.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis, and absolutely, I do owe a debt of appreciation to your hard work and your personal commitment to making the dream a reality with the grant and seeing what you have before us today. So there's 2 parts left. The next thing I'm going to do is ask the museum is to thank you for celebrating today. I think we're going to do a couple of competitive bowls. I'm not sure how well I'll do, but perhaps there's some other experts here. But really, we hope you'll see the ribbon cutting and take my sincere appreciation for coming out today, your dedication to the sport, and of course your dedication to the club. Thank you, everyone.
on.